the baby that wasn't mine. I always thought my marriage was built on honesty. Not the kind you perform in front of friends, but the quiet, unshakable kind that holds you together during the nights when the world feels like too much. I met Mark when I was 24. He was charming in that quiet, deliberate way that made you feel seen. He listened more than he spoke, smiled with the kind of warmth that could dissolve tension, and had this stubborn way of making me believe that everything was going to be okay, even when it wasn't. For years, we were that couple, the one people looked at and said, "They're solid." We weren't flashy. We didn't show off online. We had inside jokes, Sunday morning coffee rituals, and a shared dream of starting a family. That was our story, our plan, until the universe decided to write a very different one. Infertility has a way of breaking you in silence. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't announce itself. It creeps in through the months of negative pregnancy tests, through the quiet tears in the bathroom, through the forced smiles at baby showers. It lives in the ache between your ribs when someone else posts a pregnancy announcement. For 5 years, we tried everything: ovulation tracking, fertility treatments, endless doctor visits. I lost count of the number of times I lay on a cold examination table, legs spread, body becoming a medical project rather than a vessel of life. And through it all, Mark held my hand. At least, that's what I thought. He was my rock, my steady heartbeat when mine faltered. Every time a doctor gave us bad news, he would pull me into his arms and whisper, "We'll find a way, Claire. We'll be parents. I promise you." Those words became my lifeline. We talked about adoption. He was the one who suggested it. He even started doing research months before I could bring myself to. We filled out the paperwork, sat through the interviews, attended the workshops where they tell you how love can build a family. And for the first time in years, I saw light again. It was a cold morning in November when Mark called me from work. His voice trembled with excitement. "Claire," he said, "you're not going to believe this. There's a baby who needs parents, now." My heart skipped. He explained that, through a friend of a friend in the system, he'd heard about a young woman due to give birth within weeks who wanted to place the baby with a stable, loving family privately. A straightforward adoption, he called it, quicker than the regular agency process. I didn't know the law well enough to question it then. I only knew hope was burning through me so fast it felt like oxygen. Mark took care of everything. He said he'd already spoken to an attorney who specialized in private adoptions. He booked the appointments, filled out the forms, arranged meetings with the birth mother. He told me, "You don't need to stress. I want this to be easy for you. After everything you've been through, let me handle it." And I let him. God, I let him. 2 weeks later, we were sitting in a small office with beige walls and the faint smell of disinfectant. The attorney, a man with kind eyes and perfectly ironed sleeves, laid out the process. It sounded clean, legal, simple. The birth mother, he said, was young, barely 22, and wanted complete confidentiality, no direct contact. She'd already signed the paperwork stating she wanted the baby adopted immediately after birth. Tears filled my eyes when I heard that. I whispered, "She's giving us a chance." Mark squeezed my hand. "We're finally going to be a family, Claire." The night the baby was born, I couldn't sleep. It felt like the universe was holding its breath. Mark got the call at 2:17 a.m. The birth mother had gone into labor. We rushed to the hospital with bags, packed diapers, formula, a tiny blue onesie I'd bought months ago, just in case. The maternity ward smelled like antiseptic and new beginnings. When the nurse placed that baby boy into my arms, the world disappeared. He was so small, his skin warm and soft like a whisper, his fingers wrapped around mine with the strength of a promise. I cried the kind of tears that don't need words. The adoption attorney handled everything quickly. Too quickly, maybe. We were told the paperwork would be finalized within weeks. I trusted that. I trusted Mark. I trusted everything. We named him Eli. It started small. A weird phone call. A number I didn't recognize. Hello? A woman's shaky voice on the other end. Is this Claire Reynolds? Yes. I can't talk long, but you need to know everything isn't what it seems. The line went dead before I could ask a single question. I brushed it off as some scam or wrong number. People target adoptive parents all the time, right? But something about the way she said, "isn't what it seems," lodged itself under my skin like a splinter. Then came the paperwork. I had been reviewing the legal adoption documents one night while Mark was in the shower. Most of it was standard, but on one page, a consent form, the birth mother's name caught my eye. Rachel Donovan. I didn't know why it felt familiar, but it did. I opened Mark's laptop, something I'd never done before. We'd always respected each other's privacy, but something in my gut whispered, "Look." I typed the name into the search bar in his email, and there she was. Hundreds of emails. Mark and Rachel. Late-night messages, flirty jokes, photos, conversations that started months before the adoption ever came up. My hands went numb. One email subject line burned into my brain. About the baby we need to talk before Claire finds out. My world tilted. I didn't sleep that night. I scrolled through everything: messages, photos, texts, synced to his laptop. Rachel wasn't just some birth mother. She was his mistress, a woman he had been seeing for almost a year. She was the mother of his child. The baby in the crib wasn't an adopted child. He was his biological son. And the worst part? He had tried to pass him off as a gift, as if fathering a child with another woman could be wrapped up in legal documents and lies. When Mark came out of the shower, towel around his waist, humming some stupid tune, I felt something inside me harden like glass. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just said, "Whose baby is Eli?" He froze. His face went pale, then flushed crimson. "Claire, it's complicated." "No, it's simple. Whose baby is he?" His silence was the only answer I needed. Mark sat on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. He told me he had met Rachel at a bar near his office during one of the nights when our fertility treatments had drained everything out of us. He said he was lonely, confused, emotionally lost. She got pregnant. She wanted to keep the baby. He panicked. Then he came up with what he called the perfect solution: a private adoption. He convinced her to sign papers. He made sure I didn't meet her. He thought that if I raised the baby as ours from day one, I'd never question anything. "I didn't want to lose you," he whispered. "I thought if we had the baby, everything would just fix itself." Fix itself. Like betrayal was a broken pipe he could patch with duct tape. I looked at him, this man I had trusted with every corner of my soul, and felt nothing but ice. "You used my pain," I said quietly. "You built this entire lie on my grief." He cried, begged, swore he loved me, said he would do anything to keep our family together. But he'd already burned it down. I called the attorney the next morning. My voice shook, but my mind was clear. When I told him everything, there was a long, stunned silence. He had no idea Mark was the biological father. He was furious. "Claire, this changes everything. This isn't a legal adoption. It's fraud." I felt sick. Rachel's rights were still intact. The entire case could be thrown out. I could lose Eli. The attorney explained that Mark's manipulation could result in serious legal consequences for him. And worse, Rachel could choose to take the baby back at any moment. I hung up and sat on the kitchen floor, the world spinning. The baby monitor hummed softly in the background. Eli slept peacefully, completely unaware of the storm brewing around him. I whispered to the empty room, "I won't let them take you from me." I contacted Rachel myself. She agreed to meet me at a diner off the interstate, far away from anyone who could see us. She looked young, too young. Long blonde hair tucked under a baseball cap, tired blue eyes. The kind of fragile beauty that looked like it had seen too much too soon. "Why did you do this?" I asked. She stared at her coffee for a long time. "He told me you couldn't have kids," she said softly. "He told me he loved me but didn't want to leave you, that you wanted to adopt, that this way everyone could be happy." Her hands trembled. "I didn't know you didn't know, Claire. I swear to God." She pulled out her phone and showed me the messages. Mark had manipulated both of us, promised her he'd be part of the baby's life, promised me the baby was ours. 2 lives, 1 lie. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I don't want to take Eli from you, but I also don't want to disappear like I don't exist." For the first, when I came home that night, Mark was waiting for me in the living room. He looked like hell unshaven, desperate. "Where were you?" he demanded. "I met Rachel." His face crumpled. "Claire, please don't do this. We can fix it. We can still be a family." "No," I said calmly. "You can live with the consequences of your lies. I'm done." He tried to grab my hand, but I stepped back. "Don't touch me." I filed for divorce the next day. The custody situation was complicated. Eli wasn't legally adopted yet, but Mark's paternity meant he had rights. Rachel had rights. I had nothing, at least not legally, but I had something else: evidence. I kept every email, every message, every signed document. I built my case like a woman who had lost everything once and refused to lose again. The courtroom smelled of stale air and paperwork. Mark sat on one side with his attorney, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Rachel sat on the other, hands folded nervously. I sat alone. But I wasn't scared anymore. Rachel and I had made an agreement. She wanted to be part of Eli's life, but she didn't trust Mark anymore. She filed for sole custody, but with a co-parenting plan that included me as his legal guardian. Mark had wanted full custody at first, but once his lawyer explained how bad his fraud made him look in front of a judge, he backed down. The judge listened carefully. Then, looking directly at Mark, said something I'll never forget. "Mr. Reynolds, you attempted to use the law to cover a lie. You betrayed both these women and risked the stability of a child's life. You will not be rewarded for that." In the end, Rachel got primary custody, I got legal guardianship rights, and Mark got supervised visitation. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the fairy tale I'd imagined, but it was justice. I moved out of the house a week later. The nursery I had decorated with trembling hands was now an empty room. Eli would not grow up calling me Mom every day, but I would be in his life. I would love him without needing a title. When I stood in the doorway one last time, Mark appeared behind me. "Claire," he whispered, "I never wanted to hurt you." I turned to him. "But you did. And you didn't stop." He reached for my hand, but I stepped away. "You built your future on my pain, and now you get to live in the ruins you made." I walked out without looking back. Grief is strange. It doesn't hit all at once. It lingers in quiet corners, in the smell of baby lotion, in the sound of lullabies on TV, in the sight of couples pushing strollers in the park. I spent the first few months in a small apartment near the water. The walls were thin. The heater made a constant clicking noise, but it was mine. It was quiet. It was safe. Rachel and I slowly learned to trust each other. She let me babysit Eli on weekends. I went to his doctor appointments. I was there for his first steps. It wasn't the motherhood I imagined, but it was real, and it was honest. Mark tried to fight for more rights at first, but his life unraveled faster than I expected. He lost his job after the scandal at work. The company found out everything. His family distanced themselves. His visits grew sporadic. Eli didn't reach for him the way he reached for me. It was at one of Eli's birthday parties, 2 years later, that I met Daniel. He was Rachel's cousin, tall, calm, kind eyes. He helped set up balloons, carried boxes, and made Eli laugh with a puppet show he improvised with napkins and cups. We talked casually at first, then more. He never asked me about Mark. He didn't need the story to see the woman I had become. He told me, people who survive betrayal either close their hearts or open them wider. You're the second kind. Something in me softened that day. Daniel and I didn't rush. We built something steady. He understood that Eli wasn't mine, but also that he was a piece of my heart. He never tried to replace anything or anyone. Years passed. Eli grew. I became his constant, even if not by blood. Rachel rebuilt her life too. She forgave herself for believing Mark's lies. We became an odd but strong family, not defined by rules, but by love and truth. Mark eventually moved to another state. His visits stopped entirely. Eli never asked much about him. Children can sense who truly shows up. The day Eli called me mommy for the first time wasn't dramatic. We were at the park. He was 3, running around chasing a red ball. He fell, scraped his knee, and ran toward me crying. And in the middle of his sobs, he said, "Mommy." I froze. Rachel, standing a few feet away, smiled softly and nodded. "He loves you," she said. I knelt down, wiped his tears, and whispered, "I love you too." That moment didn't erase the past, but it healed a piece of me I thought was gone forever. 5 years later, I married Daniel in a quiet ceremony on the beach. Rachel was there, holding Eli's hand. Eli walked down the aisle throwing rose petals, laughing the way only children can when they feel safe. I looked out at the ocean, at the people who had stayed, and realized something extraordinary. The life I dreamed of didn't happen. But the life I built after the betrayal that was even better? No lies, no stolen dreams, just truth, love, and a boy who called me mom. People often ask me if I ever forgave Mark. The answer is no. I didn't need to. Forgiveness isn't about erasing what happened. It's about no longer letting it define who you are. He lives with his choices. I live with mine. I chose to rebuild, to love again, to open my heart even when it had been shattered. Eli is 12 now. He knows his story, every part of it. And when he hugs me, I know I didn't lose. I just found love in a different way. Sometimes life doesn't give you the family you planned. It gives you the family you fight for. And that's even more powerful. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to know how you liked the story.